Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing on this wonderful Sunday morning? I hope you're enjoying your day. I am still absolutely mystified that some of you get up at 6:30 in the morning to watch this show. God love you. But it is always good to have you, whether it's at 6:30 or at 9, and to spend a little bit of Sunday morning with you. This is our weekly conversation with each other about things that matter to us, and sometimes things we don't even know that are going on right here in our own greater Joplin area. This morning, my guest is going to be David Schepper. David is one of the chaplains for our Joplin Police. And David's going to talk to us a little bit about why they have chaplains with the police corps. You probably didn't even know that they did, and what they do, and how they help take care of folks in our area. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and we are going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. So again, talking a little bit about police chaplaincy in our Joplin area. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It was silly to be so dreading it so much because it was really no big deal. There was no pain afterwards. I was really, really hungry, so I got to have whatever I wanted to have for lunch. But you know, the rest of the day I just slept, and there was no pain, and went to work the next day. Every day that I opened up my refrigerator and saw that referral on my refrigerator, I just dreaded having to go through it. And now I just kind of laugh about it because it was no big deal. And knowing it's behind me, I just don't have to worry about it. Well, my husband and I, we do a lot of riding, and we kind of cram everything into the weekends. But eventually, we'd like to, once we retire, we want to be able to go on vacations on our bikes and go riding on weekends a lot more. So we have a lot to look forward to.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, David Schepper, who is with the Joplin Police as a chaplain.
Right.
And so tell us first a little bit about yourself, David. How'd you get here? How long have you been here?
I started out, and still am, preaching.
Yeah.
And about 30 years ago, someone approached me, asked me if I'd be interested in law enforcement chaplaincy. The program actually started in 1987. And you're right at the beginning when you said a lot of people don't know about what that even exists and what we do. So, but we're celebrating 30 plus years now
of having chaplains with the Joplin Police.
So and I've been doing it for 30 years.
Great, super. Now, go ahead. Before I forget, I want to make sure you give your little church a shout out. So where do you preach?
I preach in Galena, Kansas, First Christian Church.
Super. Okay, good. One of our Kansas neighbors across the little border there, which is good.
Good.
All part of our viewing area.
Thank you.
So we're glad when Kansas tunes in too.
Yes.
You know? So you've been doing this for 30 years. What is it about the work that's had you doing it this long? Because that's a long time.
It is a long time. I honestly have to say it's not something that every preacher can do. It's more, it's a different calling from God, I think, in chaplaincy, or in law enforcement chaplaincy especially. But it definitely is a God calling, and I do it only because I can't do anything else. Mm-hmm. And when one of our chaplains says routinely, if this becomes too easy, then it's time to quit.
Yeah.
And so, or too routine. So it's time to get out of it. But
well, I'm going to guess that no 2 days are the same for you.
There are typical days, but you're right, no 2 days are the same. Most of our calls deal with death in a family. And so whether that be attended death or an unattended death, we come alongside, try to minister to the family, give the officers an opportunity to take care of any investigation if that's necessary. And then we become kind of a liaison between law enforcement and family, go back, share information, because it can be a long process, and not just minutes like on television, but it could be hours that we're standing beside the family, and they want to know what's going on, and so we can do that and have the privilege to go in and out and visit with law enforcement and the families and keep them up to date.
So let's talk about that for a second. So you get called in, you get a call, say in the middle of the night, to go with an officer to say that a member of their family has passed away
Yes.
in an accident or something.
Right.
All right. So this is where you enter the picture. You meet the officers at the...
Not always, but many times. We'll get a call to go to an address. We'll try to gather up the information, accurate information, so that we're not making a wrong call to a wrong address. And so we'll, I was approached by prayer. God give me the grace to make the best of this horrible situation.
Because it's a horrible situation, have to call on a parent and tell them their child's died or something.
That's the worst. Yeah. And so approach the house, knock on the door, ring the bell, and introduce myself. And if an officer's with me, it would introduce the officer and kind of basically tell them why we're there. We try to get the folks in the house and seated so that we can tell them the bad news. And so with as much information as we can give as a chaplain, we try to do that to the best of our ability. Not some things are probably too difficult, too graphic to explain, but just give the pertinent information, and then if the officer's there, let him explain further from that side. Yeah.
So, and obviously those are not the only kind of calls you do.
It's probably three-pronged, 2 long prongs and 1 short prong.
Okay.
Primarily we're there for law enforcement and families. And so anything going on in their family, critical stress, whatever situation, divorce is predominant in law enforcement. We make ourselves available to them.
It's a tough field to be in.
It certainly
takes
is.
a toll on a lot of marriages, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And so we're available to law enforcement and their families. The second prong is to the community, death notification. There are other things we provide for the community. And then the shorter prong is that we can assist folks traveling through, coming in from out of town, and they have a need. And so we have some money that we can help, but we don't replace any services that can be found locally.
Right. And again, you're one of the people we refer to. If folks are passing through, we'll just say, okay, now that's handled by the police chaplains. So you'll have to go down to the police, station and do all that stuff. And we always find that it's very, that can be intimidating for some folks because people are like, oh my God, I got to go, talk to the police, to the police chaplains or whatever. And
they fill out an application and
but that also keeps people from taking advantage of it too.
Well, we run a background check on everybody, and so we've invited folk to the jail periodically and spend the night.
Well, there you go.
Three meals.
Wow, there you go. Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have
thunk? All right, so those are the 3 primary things that you do.
Right.
In terms of that, you've been doing it 30 years. Again, you said that you see it as a calling. What drew you to the work in the first place? Other than the call, but I'm just saying, what was it about that kind of appealed to you that you've been going back and doing it for this long?
Interesting question, because even before I was asked, I think God had put something in my heart, an appeal. And that was 2 years prior to even being asked. And so when the chaplain that approached me, I said, I can't find any reason why I wouldn't do this. So there are 3 of us now, and one was there from the inception. I have 30 years, and then the other has 29 years, I believe. So
you guys have been at it for a while.
So cumulative, about 60 years between us. Yeah.
Impressive.
So this is not a invitation, but if you sense a calling from God to be a chaplain, certainly be glad to talk to you or somebody about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So any of our ministers, because most of our ministers are working this morning.
Right.
They're sitting around watching us on TV. But
I get up at 6:30 to watch.
There you go. Well, God love you.
Yeah.
You need a. That's why I tell people when they tell me, you need a life on Sunday morning if you're getting up at 6:30 to watch. But at any rate, we're grateful that everybody's out there. But in terms of that, I just realized as we're sitting here talking, you and I are used to terms like chaplains and pastors and all that kind of good stuff, but chaplains are a specific generic kind of minister.
Right.
And so what a chaplain does, a chaplain usually takes care of a particular segment of society or a particular group within a community or society. And so, so like there'd be chaplains for a hospital,
Right.
or chaplains for the police department or the fire department, or those kinds of things. Do you guys do all the first responders, or just the police?
Well, one other chaplain I work with the fire department.
Okay.
Joplin Fire Department,
Yeah.
and then Reddings Mill and Webb City, and
Yeah.
so some surrounding
Yeah.
department. Primarily, our focus is law enforcement chaplaincy, but that's secondary. So
Sure, but if
that's
anybody
another
needs a little
hat.
help, sure.
That's another
Anybody needs
hat.
a little help to do some of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So we don't go in to preach. That's not our business. We go there to be the hands and feet of God, to be a representative ambassador of Him, and so bring some stability, quietness to the tragedy, or whatever it was, or it is, and law enforcement really appreciate that, because it really does allow them to do what they're there to do, and permits us then to do what we do.
Yeah, because sometimes, I mean, I imagine an officer's got to, take care of an investigation,
Yes.
got to get to the bottom of something, do whatever, whereas you are free to just take care
Right.
of whoever happens to be in the situation.
Right.
It's a very different kind of an approach. I mean, that one's got a job to do, and you're just there to take care of.
Right.
You know?
And it's different than it was 30 years ago, 32 years ago, where we're kind of free to come in and out of a scene. Now, because of legal matters, everybody who goes in has to sign in, sign out. And so we just, our main ministry is families and their needs, try to meet their immediate needs and take care of whatever it might be.
Yeah, interesting. So, in terms of, like what stories? I mean, that's actually our viewers love when we tell stories.
Well, one of the stories that everybody knows about is the Joplin tornado.
Sure.
And we spent a considerable amount of time for 2 weeks. I had 140 hours volunteered in those 2 weeks, and we had law enforcement personnel coming in from all over the state,
Right.
country, far away as California and New York. And so as chaplains, my responsibility was to take care of the officers. One of their other chaplains worked with the federal government in the morgue
Right.
at Missouri Southern. And then our third chaplain was involved in the tornado, so he was trying to gather his own life together. So anyway, so that was the big event, and it was just making sure that law enforcement, each one of us, our three chaplains are members of the International Conference of Police Chaplains, which is a training and credentialing organization. And then each one of us are members of the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation, which is training in crisis management, debriefing, defusing. And so we were able to use that during the tornado and other events, so that an event has a beginning and an end, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So some ending are very quick, and some we're still dealing with the tornado.
Sure, yeah,
And
we are in some instances, although it's been a while. My guest this morning is David Schepper, who is one of our local ministers over in Galena, but also his job that we're talking to him about this morning is as a chaplain for the Joplin Police. So we are going to be right back after a real quick break, so stick with us and we'll be right back.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, I'm here this morning with David Schepper, and we are talking about a chaplaincy, which is kind of like a ministerial approach to a particular segment or group of people, and the group of people that he works with is the Joplin Police. David, we were talking right before the break about that some events have a beginning and an end, but some of them wind up, continuing on even long after.
Yes.
How much of that kind of work do you have to do in terms of things that'll just like kind of continue to carry on after a longer period of time?
Well, we try to keep in touch. One of the things we do is make sure that that we're available. So if someone needs to visit with us, talk to us about something critical going on in their life, because for example, the tornado, it really didn't just affect people physically, that is, destroyed their property, homes. It really took a toll on them emotionally,
Right.
and some physically, and some obviously lost family members. And so we were able during that time to contact, as far as I remember, somebody of each one of those families, people who died, and contact each of the family to visit with them, invite them to a
Just to make
memorial
sure that-
service,
yeah.
make sure things are okay, make sure that they know we're available to them, night and day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Which I think is, again, it's a wonderful spot that you were in, because many of us were dealing with our own
Yes.
folks and our own communities, and helping those folks, and we knew they were getting care,
Right.
they were getting follow up and everything. But there are a lot of people out there who might not be churched, might not have a church community. Even folks out there, who are agnostics or atheists or whatever, that still need somebody to help take care of them, and still follow up with them, and and I know that I did not know very many ministers in this greater Joplin area that would not just still attend to anybody, whether they were a believer or not. If they needed an ear or they needed a shoulder or any of those things, it's okay. And I think it's great that, and I hadn't even thought about that in the aftermath until you were just talking about it. But that was a great opportunity for everybody to just reach out and to love on people who might not have had a ready-made community to love on them a little.
And it did bring the community together in a sense that everybody's refrigerator was open, in a sense that if you had it and I need it, you share it.
Right.
But we had so many volunteers come in to help out, and we do appreciate that. Again, we're not out there to proselytize, but to be the God's ambassador, and occasionally, like you said, even unbelievers. Yeah. And I've had the occasion to make a second visit. Once we get invited back, fair game, whatever. Yeah. And so one folks to the Lord just because of that immediate contact that we made through chaplaincy. So whether they're in a crisis for whatever reason, death is not always the crisis.
Right.
Abuse, substance abuse, physical abuse.
Well, any human being that's out there has got a myriad of things that can somehow reach into their life and sometimes make it a little difficult.
That's that point where God can move in when we're at our worst, and we seem to be desperate and open to what He wants us to do. So, and we go step in, and if we get an immediate foot in the door, meet their need, and sometimes they invite us back.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm gonna follow up on something that I've never really had a chance to follow up on anybody with, and since you opened the door, I'm gonna go there.
Let's go.
After the tornado, one of the things that a lot of the workers that would come through would say, "You guys are doing this in your own unique way." We weren't doing a whole lot of critical stress debriefing and those kinds of things, and in some cases, I know that in my areas, we never did any. Okay. I mean, we never got to it because we were just too busy going on with all the other things that needed to happen. Did you hear others comment on that? The folks that were coming in, professionals from the outside, to do some of that. Do you think we ever got to some of it?
I think we did. There were professionals, obviously, in the mental health arena, but at the end of every day, which was a 12-hour cycle, or 12 hours on call, we would bring as many officers as would come, and we would debrief. It was a modified debrief. We talk about things that happened in their day, and try to get them to focus that even in these men and women see the worst of the worst. And so what they saw here was, it was not routine, not typical to speak of, but they've probably seen it and done it in another way.
Right.
And so, but we're all humans. And they're not mechanical, they're not machines, and so we all have feelings, emotions, senses, and so those need to be dealt with, or they'll deal with you.
Oh yeah.
And in a very difficult way, and so medically speaking, it can break down the body, it causes illness, all kinds of things happens from stress. that's not dealt with.
Right. Yeah. It was always interesting. Like I say, I would talk to several of those individuals, and they'd come through and they'd just be looking at us going, you guys are going at this a little differently. You guys are unique. And I'm like, well, I could have told you that from the years of living here. We are a little unique, you know.
You have to adapt to the circumstance. And if you can't go with the flow, you're going to break. So so you have to deal with people where they are in a way that meets their needs in the best way. And it's not always perfect. Generally, it's not always perfect.
Yeah.
But we do the best we can and try to get... That's the idea of debriefing. Take them from the situation, work them through it. It's like looking at an accident from 4 different corners of the intersection. And you tell your story, I tell mine, they tell theirs. And then we kind of affirm that I really didn't do such a horrible job. And so we just kind of affirm that you did a great job and this is what I saw, and kind of a pat on the back and
just keep going.
And so there is a matter of fact way to do this, and it does get people out on the other side. At least they're not the same, they're different, but they're ready to go pick on life again.
And again, I think that would be one of the beauties of having a little, training in those crisis, management ways of doing things. That again, you guys. And again, it's like, with the police chaplains, they're like any other group. You get some special training in certain areas where you know that you're going to wind up wandering back over again and again and again. Loss, a tragedy, truncated relationships, all those kinds of things where you guys, it's just part and parcel of what you do. So you become a little specialized in some of those areas, which is good.
I think you're right about that. It is a specialty, and ministry is the larger, and then chaplaincy is one of those specialties under that. So again, not every preacher makes a good chaplain.
Right.
And vice versa, probably not every chaplain makes a good preacher.
Well, and again, those are just all little different pieces of the job. That all of us, anybody who's a minister out there has wound up doing some grief work, has wound up helping some people, but sometimes you get caught a little bit because that's not your regular mode of operation. You don't know, that's not an area that you're as comfortable in.
Not everything we do is crisis. A couple of things we do in the year is in the fall. We have a steak dinner for all of our officers, families, staff. Invite them to First United Methodist Church, and just feed them a nice meal for the night. It's comforting, or comfortable evening, and just to get away,
celebrate a little life.
Thank them. A second thing we do in the spring is we have a public safety cookout. This is the second one. Just had it, and it's generally a very nice steak, baked potato, and it's just come and go, kind of relaxing. We appreciate you for what you do. That we're telling them, officers, dispatchers, fire personnel, they probably have one of the most difficult jobs in the world.
Oh yeah. First responders are. It's interesting. I always knew it theoretically, but. And again, like I said before, I came here, I was just on a college campus, so I knew all the first responders. In some ways, I was one of the first responders. It's very different when you move into a community.
It's good to know those people, isn't it?
It's very good to know those people. Exactly. And it's just like, wow. And I guess I became, my sense of it, my awareness of it got heightened, especially after the tornado, because I hadn't done regular parish ministry for, by the time I got here, it had been... I'd been doing specialized campus ministry. So I'm a certified campus minister.
Okay.
So everybody's got all these certifications.
Sure.
It is. It's just like, what is it? What do you have to do? Well, same thing. It's like, you hone your skills in a particular area in a particular way, and you build up a skill set because of the people you work with in that area. Well, when I came here, it was amazing to me. It was just like, I was so used to having that whole community on that campus. Because we were always told, well, if you guys have got a crisis, you better be ready to take care of yourselves for the next 2 weeks, because everybody else is going to be dealing with everybody else in the community, and nobody else is going to be able to get here. So you guys have to be self-sufficient. So we had our own police and our own counselors and our own, we just had it all, we could have fed the campus for 2 weeks.
And there's something to be said about that to the public, too.
Right.
Make yourself ready for an event. because you may not be the first one we can reach.
That's right, and it's always good reminders, and we've certainly lived through it here. My guest this morning is David Schepper, who's Joplin Police Chaplain. We're talking about some of the specific roles that are there and unique to someone who helps take care of the police department, helps take care of who the police department deals with, and also, what was that third prong again?
Well, we do have some funds, one of the churches in town, and so we don't have a lot of money to give away, so we have to be very specific about
Right, and that wouldn't be for anybody in town. That would be for folks who are passing through the area. Right.
We tend to that money very carefully.
Oh yeah, which is good, and I'm glad. I'm glad you're doing it. Yeah. So again, we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away. And again, my thanks to David Schepper for joining us this morning for talking about the Joplin Police Chaplains. We'll be right back after this Mercy Minute.
You can't start living until you're healthy. My name is JT Amos. Basically, if there's food inside of this hospital, I'm responsible for it. At 332 pounds, I would always order the biggest meal so I could feel full at the end of it. Since I'm an executive chef, it's about my relationship with food. I'm gonna try that, and then I'm gonna try it again, and I'm gonna try it again, and I'm gonna try it again. Now I try it because it's part of the job, and then I let it go. I've always been a very physical person, never let my weight get in my way, but I would suffer the next day, and I would suffer that night because I'd be in just so much pain, my legs would hurt. Now I can do 2 or 3 days in a row and not really hurt. I play with my 5-year-old daughter, we go ride roller coasters, we go do things now. A journey is what it was. I chose Mercy for the bariatric surgery because I want somebody to be with me through a lifetime. So if I am going off the rails for them to go, JT, you need to come back over, look at what you're doing. And everything just goes into place. And it's truly, you're a better person.
We are blessed here in the greater Joplin area. I have met police people from all of the different communities, Carthage, Webb City, Joplin. We are so blessed in all of those areas, Galena. There's so many different ways that we're blessed by the people who help look after our community. And sometimes we forget that sometimes that particular community also needs someone to help take care of them in the difficult work that they do for all the rest of us. And so hats off this morning to the Joplin chaplains, the Joplin Police Chaplains, and to the 3 gentlemen who do that job. David Schepper was here sharing with us his role in that and the way that many of those men have been doing this work now for 20 plus, almost 30 years, but just somehow talking and taking care of the people who take care of us. I hope that was enlightening a little bit for you this morning. Come back and join us again next week for another episode of Faith in Our Hometown. God bless. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.